You don't believe any of that?
Nope. I don't believe any of it. So here's what I believe happened. And we've actually reported on this kind of extensively. So this was not an operation to get a downed pilot. It would never happen this way. None of it makes any sense. I've interviewed multiple military guys who have said absolutely not. So for instance, you're not going to send in these, what were they, C-130s? So they tried to land and then they were too heavy because they were in the mud and they had to leave them behind. So they just blew them up instead. No. So about a week before this happens, there are leaks coming out that Trump was presented with a plan by the Secretary of War and a few generals for how they could go in and they could grab the uranium, the enriched uranium from the Iranians. And so this stuff was already out there. I think the New York Times ran an article on it. There were a couple of others that ran articles on this plan of what it looked like. And the plan included what they would do is they would fly in, they would have to construct a runway somewhere in the desert, and then they would land these C-130s, and they had all this equipment that they would bring out. They would blow open the area where this mountain, I guess, area where the uranium was kept underneath. They go in, they would bring it all back out. It was a crazy plan. So much so that when Trump was told about the plan, he said the only thing that we're missing is Schwarzenegger to take off in a helicopter afterwards, right? It's so cinematic and crazy, this whole concept. About a week later, all of a sudden, there's this pilot who was downed. It just so happens that we have C-130s in the area. It just so happens we have these Apaches in the area. And then the story is so crazy about this guy that supposedly this pilot, right, is downed. According to Trump's own words, the guy is bleeding. He hikes 5 miles and then climbs like
a huge cliff.
Yeah, like 7,000 feet or some crazy number, and then hides up there until they're able to extract him. And then once they extract him, because they got all their stuff stuck, they blew it all up and burned it all. Doesn't make sense at all.
Right.
Doesn't. What I have been told by multiple people is that they were trying to go in and get the enriched uranium. That was the original plan. They sent in these pilots around the area, and they started getting hit. A Black Hawk, or it's not actually a Black Hawk. It's similar to a Black Hawk.
Yeah.
But 2 of them were hit in the air, and then there was another that was hit. One of those fighter jets was hit. So they were able to get those guys out of there. But everybody who has talked to me about it says this is not the way you would extract. It's way too many people. It's way too complicated, and it's all the wrong equipment. You would not send that stuff in there. But if you're trying to go in and extract the uranium, and you're trying to build a runway in the desert, and you're trying to land a giant C-130 because you need to be able to carry the uranium out of there, then that's what you would do. So that's what I think it was. I think it was a disaster. And I will say this, one thing about President Trump is he is very good at spinning anything into a victory. Yeah. And I think what they did was they said, look, we're not going to go out there and say we had a failed mission because that's going to make us look horrible. And it would have. And so instead they invented a story about this hero. By the way, have you ever seen him?
I've never seen him.
No. Never brought him out in front of the cameras. Never said, here's the guy, by the way, with the injuries, the guy who climbed this cliff while he was bleeding and put out a beacon that only the CIA could hear, and they were able to track him from space, and we haven't seen any of them. We saw all the people who came back from their little trip around the moon. We've seen all those people. But we haven't seen the pilot who was down in Iran.
See if you can find out anything about that pilot. I'm curious now because I've never actually searched. Do we know his name even?
Nope. No name. Not that I've seen. Maybe name's out, but I have not seen this pilot who was down. Where is he? Because you would think this guy would be a national hero. You'd walk him around and say, this is the face of this great operation that we ran to rescue this guy because we leave no man behind. That was brilliant, by the way. It was a brilliant way to cover the story was we had somebody down and we leave no one behind. And so we went and we got him because even when I'm hearing the story and thinking it's all a lie, I'm still like, go get him, guys. Right? Because as an American, you're like,
wow,
yeah.
It fooled me, man. That's pretty wild. And